About the recording. Hello, everyone. This is lesson 14. We're in academic period 2. Thank you so much. And we recognize the city of Vancouver and me, your teacher. I am located in the unceded territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh nations, to which I am deeply honored and appreciate the reason that I am in their territory. So thank you very much for helping me. Again, this is a quick reminder. We're talking about academic period 2, in which our main objective is to have self-awareness, understanding where we are at, where our biases are, which our biases are, our stereotypes and those ideas we have. And it's okay, guys, don't feel bad. Sometimes we have racial thoughts and it's inevitable, and we're going to face those that dark side of our personality. All right, don't be afraid of the dark side. Once we get to know the dark side, it's easier to know how to handle it. And again, I'm going to go back to what we did last class. During our last class, we took 2 tests. One was the character strengths. And there, I think, again, Aranza, you were here, but Valeria, I think you were not here, or vice versa. I can't remember. So whenever we're done today, because we're going to be finished in about an hour, try to finish this online test. Now, I need to make sure this is clear, guys, because these are online tests. The accuracy of these tests, it's not, of course, the same as if you were taking these tests with a psychologist, with a therapist, with a certified person in charge of actually doing and making sure they apply these quizzes, maybe for you to start working in a company, maybe. Sometimes those could be also requirements for you to apply for scholarships abroad. There are many reasons why you could be taking these tests. However, the ones we're taking online, please, is very important you understand. And even it says here, okay, and it's very important. It says, occasionally there will be questions, blah, 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 blah. I need to make sure, blah, blah, blah. Now it says, wait for a computer. If you have answered honestly and accurately, your scores will reflect your capability level within each of the emotional intelligence quadrants. But again, this is just a picture, a general picture. Please do not let these results define you. Of course, these results do not define you, because also, if you were in a hurry, many of your answers probably, you know what, you didn't pay attention, if you were distracted, if you're hungry, if you're tired, all those things affect your results. So don't you feel that any result you may have gotten is like set in stone or anything like that. That's not the objective. The objective is just to start asking yourself questions. And I'm going to repeat again, the assignment we have for tonight is trying to find 2 or 3 situations, but I'm going to ask you to try to watch videos, maybe YouTube videos, so you can try to understand maybe some ideas that maybe you don't understand. I gave you the example, for example, again, about Muslim women wearing a different attire. We have the idea that, oh, you know, I think they are suffering and they shouldn't feel. Wait a minute, in my case, I'm going to speak for myself. Until I actually listened to many of them talking how proud they were feeling, I was able to understand. And honestly, I'm being honest, I used to have the wrong idea. And the same happens in many of these countries in which they are still learning to open directive and managerial positions to women. And we usually judge, right? We go like, oh, how dare them? Oh my God, right? But we're also being maybe not so empathetic if we're not also trying to learn. I'm here with the willingness to try to understand something that I recognize I don't understand very well. So that's going to be important. And those are the objectives of this test. It's not definite. It's just to start thinking where we are at. So today's topic, guys, is going to be continue talking about emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence. However, I need to make sure that we understand the difference first between IQ, which has to do with the cognitive processes, and even that has changed, and emotional intelligence. IQ usually refers to intellectual ability, but even in the IQ now, we know that we cannot really label someone. Even if you take an IQ test, and there are many tests online, you can say, oh, I have 122, but in some other tests, maybe you get 108, and in other ones, you get 98, and in other ones, you get 130, right? You're a genius. So do not let this test define you. Usually, these tests I recommend, if you like usually knowing, is like to test yourself, for example, how you use logic to solve problems, how you plan things, how you understand abstract ideas, how you learn and adapt to change, how you grasp and use your own language to express. That is EIQ, which has to do with intelligence. However, emotional intelligence, and this is the one I'm more concerned about, guys, has to do with identifying emotions in yourself. And that's why we're going to have this exercise of finding videos in YouTube about things in cultures that maybe I don't understand, right? For example, empathize with other people. That has to do also with I'm willing to listen to you. Before I say I don't agree, I'm willing to listen. And I don't have to agree to listen and be willing to understand. Is this clear, guys? I don't need to make sure that you agree. No, but at least allow yourself to listen, understand, and develop your empathetic ability, your skills to be empathetic. Am I making sense, guys? So that's why I'm reading this. Adapting your feelings and behaviors, how you feel, controlling your impulses, withstand temptation and delay gratification, resolve conflict with others, and communicate effectively. So you see, the part of the emotional intelligence is what we're going to be developing, guys. Now, can you see here, and this chart is so important, guys, for you. Can you see how emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence actually they match, they have a connection, okay? One thing does not go without the other. Now, emotional intelligence, we already said, is the ability to identify and manage your own emotions and the emotions of others. Now, I have a question for you guys. You're taking this class, Intercultural Communication in Global Environments, and we keep talking about respect, and we keep talking about, but now we're going to put it in practice because your homework is going to find 2-3 situations from different cultures that maybe make you feel uncomfortable. But I need you to learn about it. I need you to be open about it. I need you to deal with those feelings. You know, is this making sense, guys? And cultural intelligence is the ability to relate to and communicate effectively with people from other cultures. But how can I talk about intercultural communication and the theories of intercultural communication if first we do not understand how I'm going to handle with things I may not agree completely with? It has to do usually with understanding. Okay, is this clear? Now, I love this chart because even though it's a little confusing, can you see it? I know it looks a little confusing, but I need to make sure that we understand. Oops, sorry. There you go. Okay, can you see the chart where it says culture? Just give me thumbs if you can see culture. Yes, very good. Thank you, Paulina. Thank you. Okay, so as you can see, thank you, Livia. I'm going to give you a few seconds in silence so you try to understand this because it's not so easy to understand. So I'm going to be quiet, try to see if you can find the logic in this, and then we can discuss it. We can talk about it. Now, I would like you to take notes, guys, even though you have the presentation, of some of these topics, because when you watch those videos that you're going to find for homework, and I'm not going to tell you which ones, I gave you the examples in my case about Muslim women, for example, or Japanese corporations having to begin to welcome females in managerial and directive positions, because those were things I used to have a bias, and I used to be very judgmental, to tell you the truth, about those two things. So what I did, I watched videos and I listened to real people, and I opened my mind to try to understand it. So can you please write down some of these words that may help you understand these topics that may be a little bit controversial that you're going to be looking for your assignment? Remember, we talked about the fact that if you grew up in this environment, for you, this is normal. And it's not about wrong or right. It's about this is my reality. Remember the worldview that we talked about in the first academic period? This is where it comes from. Experiences, way of life, internalization of things, structures, how things are in my context, values. Our values may be very different. And that doesn't mean their values are wrong and mine are right, correct? Artifacts. And now do you also find around, we have people in relationships, we have performance and achievement, layers of impact, which can be internal or external, and we also have communication and socializing. Now, in the layer of impact, internal and external, do you remember last class we talked about the iceberg? Remember the iceberg. So you can also open your last presentation and also maybe focus in some of those topics that we talked about in the iceberg, maybe because maybe now that you're going to be trying to find topics that may be not very clear to you, try to focus in trying to understand and listen what people have to say, not because they have to justify themselves, but try to listen. Let me tell you an example. Did you know, for example, that for us in Mexico, something so normal as Day of the Dead, which is something so common and so normal, there are many countries, and I have talked to many acquaintances and colleagues, they usually find, and I appreciate that they have been very sincere. They have told me, to tell you the truth, Ada, I find the tradition of Day of the Dead morbid. I find it disgusting. I couldn't, I don't know how you do it, because I don't feel comfortable talking about that. It makes me feel uncomfortable, and I don't know how you do it. And they shared with me, I have this stereotype because I feel uncomfortable. Could you help me understand? And then that is wonderful, because then I said, yes, I can help you. And you don't have to accept it and you don't have to agree, but I'll be very happy to share why I'm so proud of our Day of the Dead celebration. And after I share, I can see not all the people, again, have to agree, but at least, you know what? Thank you for helping me understand that. So also try to place yourself in that position. Let me give you another example. For me, even in Puebla, where my family was from, in Morelia, maybe this is not happening, and I don't know Brazil. In Puebla, in the mountains, it was very common for my grandma to cook insects. So I am used to eating insects, ants, worms. So for me, that's normal, because I come from a state, Puebla, in which I grew up. When I was a little girl, I remember my grandma used to cook ants, delicious ants, in a taco, in a tortilla. And I used to eat, I used to eat ants, fried ants. And when I tell this to my family in England, Glenn's brothers, they usually say, yes, I'll be very happy to do it. But we still have friends in England that they almost throw up when I told them that I eat ants and worms. And they feel like, don't tell me, it's the most disgusting thing. I cannot even imagine. And what I'm trying to give you is an example when we place ourselves on the other side. For them, I'm crazy. And for them, I'm wrong. And for them, I'm bad because I eat insects. You know what I'm saying? So again, this may sound crazy also for many of you, but I have to tell you something. Mr. Jenkins, he has eaten the ants and the worms, because my mom, about 2.5 years ago, when we started going out and I was coming to Seattle, I remember my mom told me before she passed away, we need to make sure this is the guy, this is the right one. So you're taking next time you're going to Seattle. She sent me worms, ants. She even sent me some insects that I had never eaten in my life. And I remember I arrived in Seattle and I said, honey, my mom, I thought they were going to take it away in the customs, but they didn't take the insects away. I don't know how. Anyway, I made tacos. Mr. Jenkins ate all of them and he even asked for more. But as you can imagine, it's very expensive. In Puebla, this is like delicatessen, you know, it's like very expensive. It's not very, it's not cheap. So he passed the test. He has eaten all the insects. But do you understand that when he shares with his friends in England that he eats insects, they think I'm crazy, of course, because I made him eat insects. Is this making sense, guys? I just need to make sure that whatever for you sounds normal, it may not be so normal. So again, I hope you try to understand this when you're looking for your videos. Try to understand maybe the person, how he thinks, the personal culture, but also group impact, the integration, and sometimes some of the things that we can see that are normal in the whole culture. And these little things on the bottom, cultural competence approach, everything begins with where I am. And we need to recognize that we do have biases. And maybe we are even racist in many cases. And even within our own culture. Remember, I have shared this with you before, guys. Here in Canada, I am impressed of how respectful they are of Indigenous people because they are trying to reconciliate. Remember, I showed you this at the beginning. And still, I feel it breaks my heart that in Mexico, we feel ashamed about our Indigenous people. So that could be an attitude that I would like to understand. Why do we feel ashamed? You know, even within our own culture. So this begins with me, who I am, where I am, understanding my own cultural self. And then, until I understand myself, I'm able to go to the green part that says other awareness, exploring other cultural norms, values, and beliefs. And then we are going to reach the orange stage, which is bridging skills, learning to be cultural adaptive, which is usually what Livia, you're doing by living in Mexico, but also you and Aranza by trying to learn another language, or in your case, Paulina, when you lived in Spain, or in your case, we have all had these situations. And Alec talking to your Chinese friend, that's what we're trying to do, bridging skills. Now, again, everything begins with the self-awareness. Be aware of your own bias. Be aware of your own predispositions. You see, today's the dark side. It's talking about the dark side of the force because we have these, you know, ideas. I have to tell you something that I remember, and my mom, you know, bless her heart, and she may be in heaven, but my mom was very racist. She will use the N word that now we cannot use, and she will say, "Oh yeah, that." And I said, "No, mom, don't say that. No, 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 don't say that word." Color? No, 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 don't say it, mom. That's horrible. Don't say that. But I understand also, remember how we have also talked about the fact that different generations also have different values, remember? Because they grew up in a different world. And I remember, mom, please don't say that. But my mom was very racist, but she didn't notice she was racist, you know? So it has to do self-awareness with understanding where I am coming from, where these ideas are coming from. And if my mom, let's imagine, if I had never had the chance to meet people from around the world, maybe I will have thought the same thing my mom taught me, you know, because that's what I learned. And that doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me a person that maybe I'm not very knowledgeable and I'm not open to learn new things because I'm just following what my parents taught me, right? Just focus in the self-awareness. And of course, it has to do with self-management, but later we're going to talk about that. Right now, just focus on the self-awareness. We're going to go to the self-management, empathy, and relationship management in the following weeks. Right now, I need you just to be focusing on your self-awareness, your own bias. So you see, you're going to face your own darkness. So this is what we're going to focus about. Self-awareness provides initial understanding of culture in a personal, unique, individual context, and it is based on experience, on relevance, and your own interpretation of things. It provides, of course, understanding, comfort, of course, and application. Roles, expectations, attitudes, everything has to do with how you see things. And that's not making you a bad person, but you have to be aware. Exercising self-awareness allows for personal, team, and organizational values. Everything has to begin with you first. It creates the connection, the rapport, and adds values to the social contracts. So do you see these little circles that I'm sharing with you? Do you see the yellow one, for example? What do we struggle with? What is hard for me? Do I still have some bias? For example, I'm going to share another idea and something else that happened when I moved to Mexico City. And I'm giving you this example, guys, because you don't need to go abroad, remember, or go to another country to understand that we have bias with people who are different, with people who may look, or speak or seem different than how we are. And I'm going to share another example. When I moved to Mexico City, I remember, and you're going to laugh a lot, okay? But I remember that was in 1990. I moved to Mexico City when I was 18 years old. I was very young. But back then, it wasn't very common to find people with tattoos. So I remember my mom she taught us that people with tattoos usually wear, and I apologize because I'm going to use some of the words she used to say, they are drug addicts. If they have tattoos, they are drug addicts, right? I know, right? And now look, I know, right? But talk to your grandma, talk to your aunts, right? If you ask them, a mom, or talk to your mom, to your grandma, etc. In the 90s, that's what we used to think. So I remember when I arrived to Mexico City, it was the first time I was living on my own. So every time I saw a man, because usually women never used to have tattoos, never in the 90s. But when I saw a man with tattoos, I remember feeling scared. I remember, like I felt like I have to run away, or I have to get away from this man because he's a drug addict, because he has tattoos, which is of course a stereotype, right? It is a stereotype. I know you're laughing because now we all have tattoos, right? It's very common. I have 8 tattoos now. So, and remember, I also told you about Mariana Sosa, who used to be our principal at the international high school. She told the same thing to her kids when they were no, tattoos, don't ever think about tattoos, because it's only for people in prison. Only people going to prison get tattoos. So when they went to the beach, remember I told you this example, to Cancun, and of course all the people were wearing, they had tattoos. The children asked Mariana, Mom, I think all these people are out of the prison. Why are they outside of the prison? Should we be scared of all these people? They should be in prison, because they learned that. So I know we're laughing, but I need you to be aware of these biases. Like, what are you afraid of? What are you scared of? And then trying to understand why. Where is this emotion? Let's go to the orange ones. What are our primary emotions, right? Why do I feel scared, disgusted, like the insects? Also try to understand, where are these values, where are these ideas coming from? I just shared with you that the ideas came from my mom, but I was just lucky enough to read and to try to see other realities. And most importantly, try to understand what makes you feel uncomfortable. Okay. All right, guys. Now, again, this has to do with the self-awareness, because I want to prepare you for this assignment for this week, which is finding, again, 2 or 3 videos about situations that might make you feel uncomfortable related or regarding other cultures. Okay. And we need to be aware of those things. Why do I feel uncomfortable with this? And then try to find videos with people sharing and have an open mind, because this has to do, and the reason why I'm sharing this, guys, as you can see, it says, measures how well you know yourself versus how well you understand how others see you. Everything begins with you, okay? And now we all have different stages. And I would like to read this. I'm going to be quiet again for a few seconds. You don't have to share, but try to see if you can identify where you are at. It doesn't make you better or worse. Just try to identify in these quadrants where you are at. I'm going to be silent for a few seconds. Now, don't start crying. It's not as bad as you think. It's not as bad as you think. Because knowing where we're at makes us already one step closer to maybe knowing, I wish maybe if I'm a pleaser, why do I say yes to everything and I say no to myself? But what about the seeker? I'm not sure really, and I'm still finding, and that's all right, you know. But what about the introspectors? They know who they are, but they don't. The ego is still, you know, ego is still in the blue one. Ego is still telling you like, oh no, I know very well, and usually my ideas are okay, and but I don't need feedback. I don't need this. The introspectors are going to have a hard time with today's homework. Okay. And finally, the yellow. We know who we are. We try to receive feedback, but be patient. It took me 15 years. So be patient. If it takes you 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 more years, you're still better than me. And I hope this class that we're taking, guys, has the objective to take you there before you turn 50. Hopefully. All right. You don't have to wait. Very good. Okay. Now, again, we're not going to address the self-management so much today. I'm going to go back to these topics next week once we have been able to analyze these topics that maybe make us feel uncomfortable. But we're going to talk about this, about self-motivation, about stress management, about now that I know, how am I going to deal with this? But don't worry. And then the third step is going to be the social awareness, okay? Because the more we know where we are, it's going to be easier to understand others around us. I know. And I'm not a psychologist and I'm not your therapist, but this academic period is going to take you far. I know. It's going to be very interesting because it's about who we are. I know. So we're almost in time for reflection. Okay. And as I already told you, I apologize because I have to go early today. And once again, I'm so sorry. I hope I can share with you next class about my conference. I'm going to be giving a conference again this Saturday at Douglas College at the third Global Conference of International Human Resources Management. That's the name of the event. Very long name, but anyway. Thank you. Yes, I'll share with you next week. And also one of the reasons why I want to share those experiences is because there are going to be people from all around the world with different visions and perspectives. And guess what? I'm going to share the findings of my research, but I'm going to be attacked, not in an aggressive way. I'm going to be questioned. I'm going to be asked to defend my research. And I need to make sure that I also understand these questions are not attacking me, but perhaps questioning some of the work that I've been developing and some of the research that I've been doing. But I am also going to share those experiences with you because I share with you also failure. We learn more from failure, actually. It's not that I want to fail, but if I do, it's okay. We're going to make it into a positive lesson. So from everything we have discussed today, I would like to share either in the chat or you can take the microphone. What are some of the things that you're starting to think for yourself? Again, I already told you it's not our objective to reach an answer, but to start really thinking, do I have some ideas that may be based, in stereotypes and bias? Is there anything in particular that makes me uncomfortable that I would like maybe to know more about? So I'm going to open my mind to try to see. And again, I gave you those examples, right? The tattoos and the drug addicts in the 90s, because I know you're laughing right now. But I also hope these ideas and these stereotypes that we have, these racist ideas that we may even have in the future, I also hope in 30, 40 years when you're here, people laugh about those situations that we still have to face. Okay? I know you're thinking, and I'm very happy to see that you're really reflecting on the topic. Anything that you would like to share, guys? Did I make you cry? Did I make you sad? Please tell me. Please tell me it's not that bad. Okay. Can you share, Julia? What do you think before we go? What do you think about today's class? And again, I'm not a therapist, okay? But my job is to make sure that you go deep enough into knowing where you stand, because that's going to make you a better intercultural communicator and a global leader in the future. So Julia, can you share maybe some ideas? And then I'm going to go to Paulina. Yes, Julia, go.
Okay, I really appreciate this reflection. And my last note is exactly who am I? And I thinking about this, and it's so amazing because um I I rarely stop to think about me.
Let me tell you something. I'm so glad you shared, and I really appreciate, Julia, that you're sharing. We are so distracted. Life is distracting. Everything, all the time, right? In reels and TikToks and videos and everything. This time that we stop, pause. This is, guys, what is going to take you. And I'm not saying all this is wrong. Of course not. No, no, no. It's also part of our culture and it's now part of our reality. And we need to learn also how to make peace with that. But what we're doing right now, guys, this is exactly the growth and the learning. And I hope that this practice of self-reflection, you keep doing it in the future because it's very easy to get distracted. Very good. Paulina, what would you like to share about today's class?
Well, I was thinking about stereotypes. I know it's hard for me, a culture or uh, in a bad way, but I'm trying to think differently. When the other day, I was watching a video about a culture, and you come to my mind, no, think a bad way, just like think about it's the way that they do things, and I don't know. I think that is important.
It is amazing. And thank you, Paulina. And Livia, I don't know if you remember this topic from last semester. To the people living in Mexico, you're going to understand this. And I actually hope this is one of the three situations that you pick. I shared last term that I used to have a very negative attitude towards the white Mexicans. And I'm going to try to explain this to my students in Brazil and my students in Russia. White Mexicans, it's a group that we have, unfortunately, in Mexico, separated ourselves from. And this is a group of Mexican people who usually look white. Their skin is usually light. And usually they are also in the northern or from the north part sometimes of the country. But white Mexicans, it's actually a derogative term because instead of putting us together, it's separating us. And I used to have a very negative attitude towards, and I apologize again because now I understand I was also being racist the other way around because I was hating them. I was not understanding them. And I have to admit, this was not easy. My therapist helped me understand because we usually think for my students in Brazil and my students in Russia, White Mexicans separate themselves, or we usually think they separate themselves because they have been privileged. So these are like a privileged group of Mexicans who usually believe or they have the perception that they haven't had any limitation. They have, usually they attend the most expensive schools, private schools. They usually have help at home. Okay, sometimes they have chefs at home cooking for them, people cooking for them. So because of this privilege, the idea they have of Mexico sometimes is not really close to the reality, of millions of Mexicans. And instead of understanding where they're coming from, we reject them, right? We always reject those that seem different to us. So last academic term, a year ago, I talked to my therapist and I said, you know what? I'm going to do my best to understand. I promise I'm going to open my mind to understand without judging. And even my therapist helped me understand, Ada, if you were born in a world that is like, I know we judge them, but they don't know any other reality. And we judge them like, how dare you? Don't you know that there are millions of people in Mexico that don't have food? But you're talking from your reality and your perspective. And what makes you think that the reality is just different? And if they have the willingness to open themselves to another reality, that's fine. But if they don't, you cannot judge them. They're just different. And this is one of the most difficult things I have ever done in my life, because I admit I used to judge them in a very negative way. And now I try to be respectful. But do you understand, how can we call ourselves global leaders, respectful and empathetic, when we don't even accept the people within our own country? I know. I told you it was going to be hard. And I'm sure in Brazil, you may have also differences, right? From regions. I don't know if it's the same. I don't know if it's about social class, or it's about regions, or it's about color of skin. But every country, we have our own internal, you know, I know. So I have to go, and I apologize. But it was such a wonderful class. I hope you enjoyed it. But it was hard because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to face our demons, to face. I actually can see Darth Vader, like Darth Vader inside of us. I know. But again, if you remember Star Wars, well, probably you didn't watch Star Wars, but until he actually faced the dark side, he was able to actually understand. And you know what? Make peace with that part of us too. Because this practice that you're going to do for homework, guys, is going to be so difficult. Now, I need to make sure I don't expect you next week. Oh, yes, now I completely understand. And yet, no, of course not, because that's not how things happen. But if you are at least one part of you says, you know what, I think I'm understanding better this situation, this cultural situation that I didn't understand so well in the past. We're one step ahead. Is this clear, guys? So what you're going to upload, this is important. In one page, just one page, don't go further. You're going to share in that page the 2 or 3 situations, the 2 or 3 videos. If you can actually copy paste the link of the videos, I'm going to appreciate it, because you're also going to give me the opportunity to learn with you. Okay. I'm never going to judge you, and we don't have to share with each other, because I know it's hard. That's why I kept sharing the ideas from my mom and those things, because I know it's embarrassing actually, but I keep sharing with you because that's what I went through. You don't have to share. We don't have to share, because usually we don't want people to know about our dark side. That's okay. However, if next class we can share, I admit that now I learned something about this. Maybe you can help also another classmate to maybe be open also in that sense. Is this making sense, guys? Just one page, Tell us about your reflection. Tell us about these situations that you found. Share the links if you want, if you can, in that page. And I'm going to open I can remember, I think I put the class notes, but I can't remember if I put the assignment, okay? And I'm going to give you until Sunday night, Sunday, midnight, Mexico City time, to share this experience. But I think, honestly, this is going to be one of the most difficult assignments that I have ever given you, because it's dealing with our dark side. Now, do you have questions about homework? No? I know you're so serious now. I'm so scared. I think I scared you. But honestly, I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of you, because this exercise that you're going to put yourself through, you're going to break the mold. And I'm already proud of you, because just being open to say it's hard, but I'm willing to learn. So try to find, again, videos about people not necessarily defending themselves, but trying to understand why. Can I watch a video that's going to help me understand this, that I may have a certain bias or maybe a wrong idea about, and put yourself in that situation. Got it? Very good, guys. Well, thank you very much. And I apologize because I have to go. All right. And I hope next Monday, I'm going to share about my conference. Wish me luck. Okay. And also next Monday, you're feeling like you would like to share. Hopefully you will share, because we all learn from each other. Got it? Very good, guys. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm very proud of you, and I'm sure you're going to do a wonderful, wonderful job. Got it? See you on Monday. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful.
Thank you, teacher. Good luck.
Teacher, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Good luck.
Bye.